But what we've seen this afternoon, Tom and Emily, is some pretty robust policing. To be honest with you, they went on to started the walk down Whitehall around about 12:30 this afternoon. Within about 3 minutes, they had been arrested and taken to the side of the road here to the pavement. And then an officer came along with about 50 other officers saying, right, it's time to get them lifted and shifted. And now they're starting to pick them up and move them into the police vans. I have to say the whole thing has been quite surreal. We've got the 50 Just Stop Oil protesters, some kind of YouTuber who's just been taking the mickey out of them, pretending to be a Just Stop Oiler himself and causing all kinds of disruption of his own. And then we've got somebody with a shopping trolley and a speaker and the United Nations flag playing Heal the World by Michael Jackson. It's just an absolute circus down here. However, I have to say the police have been very robust. They acted very, very swiftly. None of the hesitation that I've seen in previous Just Stop Oil protests. And if this is a sign of how things are going to continue across this 7 days of action by Just Stop Oil, then they're going to struggle, of course, to have a lengthy protest. Now, of course, their whole intention is to cause disruption and then get the media talking about it so they get that message of just stopping oil. But they're in the process now. Let's just turn to look at this. They're starting to pick people up. So bizarre. When they start to move these people, they go completely floppy and almost in a sort of a trance-like state. I've seen similar expressions on the faces of people who've just had an amazing massage, but very relaxed, very, very, very calm, a lot of the protesters who are being picked up. And now, like I said, they're being lifted and they're being shifted and they're going to stick them in the back of these police vans, and they're just getting rid of all of them now in the middle of Whitehall around here. And of course, like I said, around 50 protesters, all handled very, very quickly, very, very fast. Demonstration lasted for about 100 metres of slow walking before they were all removed from Whitehall. They got nowhere near Parliament at all. So in that sense, if that was the aim, it was a failure. If it was to get some attention, there's certainly plenty of press down here.
This is absolutely fascinating to watch, because previous protests, the police have been accused, wrongly or rightly, of being a bit too soft touch when it comes to people disrupting the roads and things. It would appear from these shots that you're getting us that the police are being quite rigorous, let's say.
No, absolutely. They're not messing around today. They really do seem determined, and some protesters seeming to put up some kind of resistance, not very keen to go into the van. But to the van they certainly will be going, and that is where they are heading now. As I said, well over 50 police officers, and they're just doing this extremely methodically. And then we've got about 3 or 4 different police vans as well, and they're just picking them up and moving them one by one. As you can see, they're all ages of people, from the very young to the fairly old as well. And they are going in those vans, and this protest is well and truly over.
Well, Ray, thank you so much for bringing us the very latest there. Lots of drama on Whitehall. We'll be back with you as more happens, of course. But I'm delighted now to be joined in the studio by a Just Stop Oil spokesperson. Dr. Grahame Buss is with us here. And hello. Dr. Grahame, thank you so much for making the time.
My pleasure.
I suppose it is interesting. There is clearly this deliberate tactic to get arrested going on. People warned by the police there if they were to disrupt the road, that would be a breach of the Public Order Act. I suppose this is legitimate there, that the police are arresting your friends and colleagues.
Obviously, we would rather that the government met with our very simple demand of no new oil and gas, which is, of course, not just our demand, but also the demand of many organisations around the world. Even the Pope supports it. The International Energy Agency supports it. Most climate scientists, the vast majority, support our demand. It's a very simple demand, and we will carry on until that demand is met.
We've seen quite a lot of younger people. OK, these shots, they were older people, middle-aged, I would say, being dragged away. Some very old, actually. Some elderly people. But there's been quite a lot of recruitment when it comes to university students. And a lot of university students tend to be idealistic. Yeah. They have a worldview that they want to see implemented. Some would say maybe they're not always the most common sense or rational when it comes to their politics. And there seems to be an attempt for Just Stop Oil to recruit these young people. And I worry they get themselves into this kind of situation. They're then arrested. They may then have to spend time in a prison cell, and it badly impacts their future prospects, potentially.
Yes, I mean, that's a very good point. I think what you would find... for a start, we are talking about adults here, aren't we? We are talking about
We
adults,
are, but, you know, young minds.
People who can join the war, who could fight in wars,
yeah,
who could be presenters on your programme. We're talking about adults. Now, I would have said that they are making a very rational decision because what they are trying to stop is a catastrophic breakdown of our society, which is what we're going to see unless we make changes.
But even if we stopped all new gas and oil in this country, in the North Sea, for example, that wouldn't affect the global temperature, would it? Because we see many other countries, massive economies, pumping out carbon emissions,
is your position
using
that
fossil
the UK
fuels.
isn't important, that it doesn't make any
Well,
difference?
no, but what I would remind viewers and listeners is that, of course, the UK has taken great efforts to reduce our carbon emissions, haven't we?
The reality of it is that we are not taking action fast enough. We're currently heading to conditions in which vast areas of the world will be unlivable, including we will see significant changes, as we already are in this country. So we will see the collapse of our economy, the collapse of our food systems, the collapse of our pensions, uninsurable housing. We're already
But will
seeing
stopping oil and gas
houses.
here stop that?
OK, so let's deal with that. Our government has said, and I've read Sunak reports on this, that we want to be a world leader. We want to be a world leader. And we want to be a world leader in addressing... Hang on, let me finish. In addressing climate change. He has said that quite categorically. And yet he is breaking his own position on... He's breaking the rules that he set up on addressing the climate change. He's reducing the amount of effort he's prepared to put into it. And he's licensing new oil and gas. Now, if we as a country, if we said we are going to stop new oil and gas, and then we go to COP28, that sends a massive message to all those other countries. We need to take that action.
So
we could be a world leader in
this. Moral leadership rather than the amount of CO2 that we as a country put out. It's about what other countries might do following our lead. I do want to
I used to work for Shell, so let me just say, now, if you look at what we are currently licensing, let's take the biggest field, Rosebank. We are paying for the development of that, and we are giving that Rosebank. We're giving Rosebank
75% tax on it.
Most of that money, 3.5, something like 3.4 billion, we are paying for the development of that field. If we weren't doing that, that licence wouldn't have been granted. They wouldn't have taken that licence up.
Dr. Grahame, can I just ask one interesting question? Because I've interviewed quite a few spokespeople from Just Stop Oil and Extinction Rebellion and other groups, and I wonder, what's your position on nuclear power? Are you in favour of it or are you against it?
Some people have some views, some people have others. But the point about...
Look, can I just ask for your position?
My position is that it's going to take a long time to develop. And what we have, the period that we have this rapidly closing window in which we have to make massive changes.
Because the reason I
asked...
Can I just finish the question, and then you can have the time to make the point? Because there are many people who campaign with your group who don't just campaign against new oil and gas. They also campaign against Sizewell C. They campaign against Hinkley Point. They campaign against clean forms of power that they don't like the look of politically. And if it is true that we're going to have this societal collapse, this big disaster, pension funds crashing down and storms and all the rest of it, why would you be equivocal on a form of powerful, clean energy like nuclear power? Why wouldn't you be campaigning for that?
Well, look, that's because that's not Just Stop Oil's demand. We have a very simple demand, which makes sense, which is easily implementable, which will not damage our economy. It will result in the transfer of investment to things which... Look, the long-term position of the government, the net zero policy, is to import vast amounts of gas.
Well, this is what I want to come up with, because is it not the case that if we stop if we stop oil and gas here, exploration, OK, we can virtue signal on the international stage and feel good about ourselves and hope that other countries will follow our lead, but won't the reality just be that we import more gas, which is dirtier, from other countries?
Most of our gas is imported already, and our total oil and gas reserves are declining anyway. We're just topping them up. Now, the sooner we stop, the sooner we can move to a renewable infrastructure.
What about fertilisers, herbicides, all of these things that we use oil for? We use oil to create all sorts of things, not just to heat our homes and the like, and to fuel our engines.
Now, the position on what I would call an absolute zero position for oil and gas is that there will be a small residual sector which is difficult to decarbonise. And that's what we should be thinking about technologies to manage the offset, to manage the capturing of those resources. That's what we have to do. Can I just point out, though?
Yes, of course. We do have short on time, but go on.
OK. That GB News is owned by a man called Marshall, I think, who has almost £2 billion invested in oil and gas.
Can I just say that Paul Marshall is a very wealthy man with many investments, many
£2 billion is a lot of money
as well.
Many of us don't have investments in oil and gas through pensions.
Let's just round this up, because of course lots of wealthy people have lots of different investments. I've seen the Just Stop Oil Twitter account this weekend tweeting about Palestine, tweeting about Gaza. That doesn't sound to me like a campaign that is solely focused on the climate. Why are so many of your fellow spokespeople so obsessed with a conflict in the Middle East rather than simply just stopping oil?
Our heart goes out to the people in Israel and Palestine. Our heart goes out to them. And what we would like to see there, of course, is a ceasefire, which our government has not supported.
That doesn't sound like an oil or an environmental campaign.
But look, well, let me go on to make the point. The point is that what we are going to see, if we release more and more fossil fuel emissions into the atmosphere, our temperature goes up, we have more storms, we have much hotter weather, we have withering heat, and in large parts of the world, we are seeing the agricultural lands die, and the consequence of that is you have conflict, and when you have conflict, you have war. That's what we're going to see. So the sort of thing we're seeing now in the Middle East, we will see everywhere. That's why it's so important that you tell the truth.
I think it's a mistake to assume that anyone who is concerned about the environment and stopping oil and gas and all of that has to sign up to another list of political statements or carry the same political views. I think that may be a mistake when you're looking to push one political agenda. But thank you very much indeed. Dr. Grahame Buss is a Just Stop Oil spokesman. Thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you.